All right, everybody, welcome back into Mining Stock Daily. Trevor Hall here, kicking off our coverage of the Rule Investment Symposium for Natural Resources in lovely Boca Raton. This is the third year covering this event. And so we've got 2 days of coverage here where we'll be trying to crank out as many of these corporate updates as possible. So we're going to kick things off with an important one. Happy to welcome in Mr. Jason Jessup, CEO of Magna Mining, a story we've been covering for the last, few years now. But man, the last 2 weeks have been incredibly eventful for the company. Not only do we have Banger Joe results out of Levack, we also have quarterly tonnage achieved from McCreedy West, and a little bit of added capital with a new major investor taking 19.9% with Alpayana, just announced this week. So Jessup, you've had a busy 14 days.
Yeah, Trevor, it's great to be back on with you again, and it has been very busy. We also uplisted to the TSX.
You did.
Yeah, very, very busy last 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay, so trading on the TSX with the symbol NICU, also on the OTCQX with MGMNF. Let's just talk about the first story that's new, relevant, obviously a new major investor, Alpayana, coming in, $140 million Canadian strategic investment. Talk about the deal. Were you looking for a strategic investor of the sorts? Can you kind of walk us through how this all came about?
Yeah, it was, I would say it happened a little bit unexpectedly.
Yeah.
We do site visits at our mines in Sudbury on a monthly basis. We had another investor who said, we think it would be great to bring up Alex Gubbins, who he's co-invested with in the past. And, he says a lot of good things about him. And he said it'd be great to have him come up to site and check out Magna. I think it would be something he'd find very interesting. So that was sort of the premise behind it. They came up to site near the end of June. And, after the site visit, I was quite impressed, and he wanted to put together a term sheet for us. So it happened quite quickly after that site visit. Now, obviously, we had a few conversations before that, but they had never been to Sudbury before. So it was, I would say, not our initial goal of the first site visit, but obviously we're extremely pleased with the outcome. Now we're in a position where we can, move forward, foot on the gas pedal with both Levack and Crane Hill. I know, as most of our listeners and what we talked about before, is Levack was going to be our next mine in production, and then Crane Hill, we'd make a decision on starting construction at some point after the PFS. So I think very clearly now, we have the cash to move that forward.
Yeah. Oh, maybe give us, who is Alpayana for those who are unfamiliar, and what are they bringing to Magna other than, the capital, the $140 million?
Yeah, so Alpayana is a Peruvian-based mining company with 5 operating underground mines in Peru and 1 in Mexico, so 6 mines in total. They have a track record. I believe this is their 40th year of production. So it's a private company, so a lot of people are not really aware of them, but significant producers. I believe they produced over 7 million tons of ore from their 6 underground mines in 2025. What I really liked about, Alpayana and particularly, Alex, is on the site visit, the questions they were asking us were about our core values, about how we treat our employees, about, what we do in the community. And I thought this was very unique, but when we looked at, their core values, they were almost an identical match. Worded differently, but the same idea about ownership, about entrepreneurial spirit, about, honesty and integrity, and caring about the communities and the safety of their people. So I think there's a huge alignment there. What they've done is, I think, extremely impressive in their minds. They've grown over the last number of years through some acquisitions, and I think that they'll be a very good partner. Now, we'd obviously, welcome visits from, their operators to come visit our operating mines.
Yeah.
And likewise, we would love to go and visit their mines and cross-pollinate and, pick up best practices. Because I think we both look at our operations very similarly. Maybe they're not the tier one assets they once were. They're a little more challenging, a little more deeper, and sometimes the best parts maybe were mined out years ago. But
Sure.
they're able to continue to operate these mines very profitably, and I think we have that same opportunity and experience here at Magna in Sudbury, and we've proven that with what we're doing at McCreedy West and how we've turned that mine around.
Yeah. Well, the market certainly appreciated the news. You're up almost 10% yesterday, as after this news was announced. But and you kind of mentioned it before, but walk us through how this accelerates Magna's plans over the next year or two, about things you can now do. I think the market was anticipating some sort of financing. One person taking 20% of the company is like a little bit better than most people were anticipating. But what can you do now that over the next year and a half that really accelerates things?
Yeah, so our base case previously was to just get McCreedy West running well, and then with the cash we had in treasury plus cash flows from McCreedy West, restart Levack mine. And I think we're in great shape to do that. What this does really is helps us move ahead Crean Hill, I think now much faster, where I fully expect that we'll have our PFS completed this quarter, and this quarter we'll take our first blast to start the portal. Wow. So it is a exciting time for us, and I think it does also give us a bit of a war chest to look at other opportunities in Sudbury for acquisitions. So it's a great position to be in. I think it's again a great partner to be bringing on board, and really it opens up all the opportunities, and I think fast tracks our growth plans.
Yeah. So if you're looking at, would you ever consider looking at projects outside of Sudbury? I know you're Sudbury born. I mean, you wear Sudbury on your sleeve.
I think it's a little bit early to do that. I do kind of keep my ear open and for opportunities primarily in Ontario that may come about that are interesting. Mm-hmm. Right now we see so much growth opportunity in Sudbury. I think it would be a little bit early in our growth stage to look outside Sudbury, but never say never, but yeah, it's probably a few years down the road.
Okay. We'll probably approach that topic in future conversations, Jason. All right, so congratulations on that. And we mentioned there's a number of other news that really hit the tape as well, including record quarterly tonnage out of McCreedy West. That is your currently producing operation here. It suggests that your operational turnaround is obviously gaining momentum at McCreedy, right? So maybe what changes were you implementing first and second quarter that continue to add to this record mining rate?
I think it's really the team at the mine. We added a lot of new people. A few people left last year from the McCreedy West team. We brought in some new people, some new leadership, and with that, I think we're just really starting to see the impact of that, the positive impact. People are gelling. The plans are getting put in place for longer term execution. I think that we are in a ramp up stage still, where as we get more development in front of us, and development was fantastic. I think we spoke to that when we announced back on the 26th of June, or as of the 26th of June, we were having record development footage at the McCreedy West mine. So all of that is paying off now, where we have more access to stopes. I think we have better plan, and it's gelling of the team that's what we're seeing now. Okay.
As I said, when that site visit I took with you and Greg and the team a couple months ago, still think you're underselling McCreedy.
It's such a great mine, and again, I think the tour we had at McCreedy West was one of the big selling features for Alpayana.
Really?
And just the people and how excited they were, and we went into some of the workplaces and talked with some of the miners, and the smiles on their faces and how proud they were of what they were doing and how proud of where they worked. I think it really sold the story for us.
All right. Well, I stand by my comments, Jason. All right. Let's do talk drill results out of the Levack, and obviously this is one project that you have been incredibly excited about. Continued development. There will be a decision, important decision, catalyst decision made here in the coming months, most likely. But you continue to hit incredible grades at that R2 footwall zone. 3.4 meters of almost 30% copper equivalent. I mean, just insane. So obviously R2 is coming along really well. What do you know about kind of that model right now, how it's sitting, the tonnage? Like, what do you guys have internally that's kind of working in your favor right now, other than the grade?
Yeah, well, we're 14 for 14 with our drill holes into the R2 zone now. Spectacular precious metals in virtually every hole. Our low-grade precious metal holes were still 5 or 6 grams, and our high-grade, over 45 grams.
It's a terrible problem.
Yeah, like spectacular. We're seeing good consistency. So where we're predicting some of these thicker, high-grade veins being located, we're hitting them within a few meters, which is great. We're also getting some positive surprises and more intersections than we had previously modeled. So we're seeing more veins, and what that could mean is that more pounds or tons per vertical meter, which is great from a mining perspective. So we are continuing to drill with 2 drills from underground. We'll have a 3rd drill starting by the end of this month, which is really exciting, and getting closer to the deposit. We are driving a drift out from our 2950 level in our Morrison ramp, a horizontal drift, which is about 200 meters out now. It'll go about 300 meters in total, so it'll be done very shortly. And at that point, we will drill from there. And, later this year, I would expect we'll restart that drift, go the additional 200, 250 meters to intersect those veins in the R2, and then actually get a look at them and start silling them.
Yeah.
And that would be in advance of a resource, but would very much help us better define it and put as much into indicated category as possible.
What does a restart decision need for you and the team to give this thing the green light?
I think we are in the process of restarting. We're going to come out with the PEA this quarter, but based on how advanced this mine is and all the resources we have underground with access and ventilation and equipment, and we just purchased a number of pieces of equipment from a neighboring mine. Some of it is actually, we're connected to that mine, and we're just driving it across. And so we will have equipment. We don't even have to bring down the shaft. It's already underground and it'll be put to work, this year. So I think a restart is happening already. Once our PEA comes out, we'll give the formal, guidance on that.
Yeah.
But it is, it's in process.
Okay. PEA, I mean, why not do something a little bit more advanced down the...
Yeah, and the reason for that is about half of our resource currently is in the inferred category. Okay. So we are going to continue to do infill drilling and upgrade and define a lot of the resource. So we wanted to be able to include that because it will be material we'll be going after in the short term. It just needs a little bit more definition drilling to define the stopes. So we did want to include that so we could give as clear a picture as possible. And again, one of the things that will not be included in the PEA is our R2 zone. And I think there's I believe a tremendous amount of upside in R2. I think it will become our flagship deposit at some point in the near future, but it won't be included, and that will be all upside to the PEA.
Okay. I wanted to ask you kind of about the perception of not only just Magna Mining, but the Sudbury Basin in general, because we have had recent news, major copper producers going in and doing some major investments into their own projects. KGHM, obviously you're familiar with, announcing KGHM 2.0, investing mostly back in Poland, but looking for the next, version of what that company looks like in the next 30, 40 years. Cerro Colorado, looking to get back online by BHP. Looks very interesting. That was announced roughly about the same time. So obviously copper demand, these companies, the major producers, are seeing the long-term trajectory of copper and want to make sure see where their low-hanging fruit is so they can, back what they have. But it always feels like the Sudbury Basin is overlooked for copper production, although it carries, obviously, tremendous grade, as you have proven with recent drill results here. Do you feel the basin's overlooked for copper production, given it's just really massively the polymetallic look of what the basin has to offer?
Yeah, Sudbury is always, I think, in the background of people's minds, investors' minds. It's because Magna's really the only pure play to invest in and get exposure to Sudbury. But the major mining companies, Vale and Glencore, that are in Sudbury, definitely look at it as a source of copper. And they have announced last year a joint venture between Vale and Glencore on a project, the Victor and Nickel Rim South Deep project. And that will be a high-grade copper mine for a long time. I think it has 15 or 20 million tons of resources. So it definitely the major mining companies that are there recognize it. Mm-hmm. I just think it's the general investment world doesn't necessarily see it because they don't talk about Sudbury a lot. It's really only Magna out there
Sudbury's
telling the story.
Nickel City.
Absolutely.
Right? I think people mistaken as being just nickel.
Yeah, it has been. And for 100 years, that's really what it was. It's only been the last 30 years or so that these high-grade copper footwall deposits have really been appreciated, recognized, and explored for. And FNX built a fantastic company around these footwall deposits, and Magna's starting to do the same. And I think that over time, more and more of these high-grade footwall deposits are going to be discovered and exploited, and maybe that'll change the perception of Sudbury. Now, that being said, there is still a tremendous amount of nickel. I would say it's probably 1-to-1 nickel and copper, for metal in the ground. So as we produce more copper, we're going to produce more nickel as well. But it's one of the overlooked camps, I think, because of that historic reputation as being a nickel camp.
Yeah. Well, and the PGMs.
And the PGMs.
I've always been very excited about the PGMs that you guys have.
It's one of, I think, the best PGM camps in North America, for sure, that's as a byproduct.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last question. Obviously, we just started the Rule Symposium here. But what maybe do you think the misconception is most about Magna right now? Or maybe maybe that would have been probably a more appropriate question last year. What are the misconceptions do you think people have finally gotten right and gotten over? See the next phase of what this company's going to
I think that we were so excited about Crane Hill. I was so excited, and I am still very excited about Crane Hill. And talking about the potential as we were doing our PFS, we definitely had an overhang on us needing to do a financing. I think now with this financing, there's no question that people know we will have the cash on hand to move forward with these both Levack and Crane Hill simultaneously, as well as potentially other new acquisitions or projects such as Podolsky. So I think that overhang is gone now. I think that was what was probably weighing on our stock price. Now that that's gone, I think it's it's all upside, and we're not doing another financing.
And he says that with a little bit of a smile on his face.
This is a big one for us. This is a big boy financing for Magna. So so we're in a great position. I think that's changing the perception, and I think there was some money on the sidelines, and I hope now they can buy in the market.
Yep. All right, Jason, thanks so much for your time. Congratulations. A lot of great news in the last couple of weeks, and obviously more to come. We'll be catching base with you throughout the rest of the summer into the fall. We'll see you up in Beaver Creek. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your week.
Thanks a lot, Trevor.
All right, that's your update from Magna Mining here, everybody, from Boca Raton and the Rule Investment Symposium. Stay tuned as we got more coming. The information presented should not be considered investment advice. Mining Stock Daily and its affiliates are not responsible for any loss arising from any investment decision in connection with the material presented herein. Please do your own research or speak with a licensed financial representative before making any investment decisions.